Hey everybody, welcome to the last way of the series, way number 30 of 30 ways to happy days, stronger days, better days, surviving the day, getting through the day, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're going through. How do we go through it? How do we get to the other side of a difficult situation or a difficult reality or a difficult whatever you have going on, a challenge, right? So that's what this series has been about. And number 30, I want to talk about how what we surround ourselves with matters. The structures we have in our life matters. The things that we choose to surround ourselves with, the things that we may not have a choice about, but how we deal with them or how we reevaluate them, how we maybe reframe them, okay? These are ways to incorporate the strengths that we've been talking about in this series, okay, is to have an environment, both physically environment, but also, by deliberately choosing what you think about to the best of your ability to increase the likelihood of having positive emotions, those feelings we talked about at the very beginning of these recordings, okay? And so these are things that might seem small, they might seem insignificant, they might seem like, what's the big deal? But they, over time especially, the more you make it a habit to surround yourself with positive truth in physical and audible and other structures, which I'll get into the specifics, the more it will influence your experience of the life that you're living. The more it can experience the way you go through your day. It's a way to get the support you need. It's kind of like your support team when you choose structures, things, objects, movies, music, friendships, work environment, choices around how you spend your free time. It all kind of fits together. It's not just an isolated I have this situation and I'm going to pluck out this strength. It's always about how do I use this strength? What the heck does that mean? Depending on what you're going through. So, for example, as I've mentioned in others, let's just start with jewelry. Jewelry is an easy go-to for some of us who like to wear jewelry or like to have physical, reminders on us, okay? So I've mentioned before, necklace that I wear all the time, and this is something that is personally meaningful for me and gives me a lot of strength and helps me with perspective. Okay, it's as I've mentioned, it's an ancient coin, over 2,000 years, that was found in Israel, and it is printed with the words "struck in the year 2 of the revolt," which refers to the Jewish revolt against the Romans. A lot of these coins were found throughout Israel. So this is something that I've had for around 15 plus years. And it reminds me that my people that I come from, we've gone through a lot and we have made it through. And especially in these days, that's an important message for me to kind of root into and to remember. So I wear that. The other thing I might have mentioned is bracelets. And this has become something that you see almost everywhere, where there are messages on bracelets, whether they're the rubber bracelets that you can get pretty inexpensively, or if they're made with other kinds of materials, metal, whatever. So I happen to really like, I guess they're brass, and I have them with messages written in Hebrew. One I've gotten on Amazon, another one I've gotten on Etsy. All you need to do is, thank God for the internet. For good and for bad, but let's use it for good. So there are plenty of jewelers and artists and creators out there who are creating wonderful things that can support you in your journey. So I have one that says Gam Ze Ya'avor, which is Hebrew for "this too shall pass," which is attributed to King Solomon. All right. And it was something, if I'm remembering correctly, that he had on a ring that he would wear to remind him when things are good, just remember, this too shall pass. And when things are not so good, just remember, this too shall pass, right? May it all, if it's bad, may it all pass gently and easily and just with ease, Okay, so that's one. The other one I have is from Song of Songs, and that's something that my husband and I each have one, and it reminds us of our relationship and strengthens our connection. So those are just two things that I happen to wear on a regular basis. What are things that you're already wearing, right? Maybe you're wearing a symbol on a necklace that is meaningful for you. Maybe it's something you inherited from a family member or a loved one. And so that reminds you of them and what they stood for. Or maybe you're seeking to have something. So it's important to find something that really truly resonates for you, not just something that maybe you're seeing, other people wearing. It has the most power and the most ability to support you when you need it, right? If it really resonates for you. So always kind of do that test of like, how much does this really mean to me? How much will this give me strength? How much will this help me remember X, Y, and Z, whatever that is that you want to be reminded of. Okay, so that's jewelry. Now the other thing, which again, with the world we live in nowadays, artwork would be something else. But I really love quotes, and so I tend to have things that have like what I consider words of wisdom on some kind of artwork. It can even be a mixed tile. It can even be a sticky note that you stick on your mirror. It can be anything you want, but artwork kind of beautifies it, right? So that's talking about the strength of appreciation, maybe of beauty and excellence. Also, we can call that wonder and excellence, right? So whatever is to your aesthetic sense, find things that will support you in getting through a hard moment, in getting through a hard time, to help you remember to dig into your strengths, okay? And it could be, think about which ones are your top strengths, which are your go-tos. And then mindfully, when you're out and about or looking online to buy something for your home, think of like doing a search with that actual character strength. So let's say your character strength is, okay, maybe depending on the context, right? But I was just reminded of the Franklin Covey stores that used to be around in like the 90s and before. I haven't seen them in a very long time, but I loved going into those stores. This was when I was more in my traditional business phase, but I loved going into the stores, and they had all the motivational posters with like, the eagle soaring, and it's like teamwork or leadership, whatever. So, there's a place for those kinds of images too. You might think they're cheesy. You might think they're whatever. Or you might be like, I love those and those motivate me and I want to have my office filled with those, or I want to have one of those as a wallpaper on my phone, or just own what it is that motivates you. And, it's interesting. You can also look back at what was the kind of imagery you liked to surround yourself when you were younger, and what have you outgrown, or what no longer fits the bill, and what is calling to you, what is attracting you, what are you pulled towards. We talked about push-pull before. What kind of imagery or language or energy is attracting you now? And just own it and, enjoy it. So surrounding yourself with images and quotes, if that speaks to you, that can also be really helpful. Okay. Another thing I think I've mentioned is mugs. Mugs are like, if you drink tea, coffee, hot cocoa, if you have mugs in your home, have you given any thought to what they look like or what they say? And if you're okay with the idea of words on your mug, then go to town on Amazon or Etsy or another site or a local store, and see what resonates for you. So I tend to gravitate towards quotes, as I mentioned, and specifically Bible quotes, okay, religious quotes. Always, if I saw one, and I would just get it at a store that unfortunately went out of business. But in any case, what do you have in your home? And now, as a parent, listen, we can't control who our kids become, right? We can't control the outcome at all. We can only do what we can do to create an environment that hopefully conveys the values that we are aware that we have. And like, that's my doggy whining out there, sorry. And then what do we do with that, right? So with the, Doobie, you're going to have to wait, love. With the mugs, I have quotes that resonate for me, okay, that speak to me. that are important to me. And then I'm just going to let my baby in. Hold on one sec. You want to come in? Come. Come on. I'm recording. This is live and imperfect. That's just how it is. And that's okay. If anything else, I hope from this series also you feel like things don't have to be perfect and to be good. And what is good enough. All right, Pooch, sit down, honey. And if you're listening on audio, this is life. But I was talking about mugs. So I think mugs are an easy, relatively inexpensive way to be reminded of what you value and to be reminded of what's important for you. And, you know, when it comes to parenting, we're planting seeds all the time. All the time. And we don't know what's going to take root, right? In the experience or the thoughts or the values of our kids. But mugs are a great way. So that's another structure that I wanted to be sure to point out. Basically, you want to surround yourself with what you consider the good. And as I've mentioned, there are definitions of good that I think we can agree on. And so the easiest way would be that which celebrates life. Okay? Life. Let's just start with life. Life and truth. Okay? Life and truth. You stick with those, we'll have some pretty good goodness. Life, truth, and creativity. To create, not to destroy. Let's see what we can create in our lives. What can we shine creatively in our lives? Okay. So the other thing is our brains are pretty powerful. Okay? Our brains are pretty powerful, and we can remember a lot. Even if the older we get, maybe we're like, what did I come into this room for? I know there's a lot of jokes about that. But in any case, what have you memorized? And when I say that, for me, I think about song lyrics or movie lines. Okay? And how helpful is the music that you listen to? So maybe when you were at a different stage, you were listening to music that was important for you then, but maybe now it's not as helpful. I would like to posit that music matters, the lyrics matter, the content matters, the energy of the music matters. And especially because we're so plugged in with our earbuds or whatever they're called, our earphones, headset, it's like sending messages to our brains all the time. So be aware of what you listen to and choose that which will, raise your vibe, like more high energy, or if you don't want to be high energy, like a calming, supportive quality of music. Okay? And I think I mentioned this, but like one of the hacks I love to do with music is, especially because so many songs are like love songs, love songs, love songs, or lack of love or whatever. But I like to, and I've been doing this for a while, thinking of the songs, if it works, like it's God talking to you. I know it sounds a little interesting maybe, but if you reframe it to God, Hashem, Creator, Universe, Source, One, whatever you want to call it, okay, as like a message from that which is divine, it's interesting. It's interesting. And I guess you could argue when you get inspired to, come up with something creatively, where does that inspiration come from? So, is it just a product of everything that you've learned and experienced? Maybe. Maybe there's some kind of like spiritual, soulful inspiration there too. And where does that come from? So things to think about. What music, what movies, oh my God, what movies? What movies are we surrounding ourselves with? Do you finish a movie and you're like, well, those are 2 hours I'll never get back again. And sometimes we need that, and we need that break, and that's what we would call junk flow. I talked about that again at the beginning of the series. Like, it's okay to have those breaks, but if you are consuming a lot of media on a regular basis, can you take space to be more mindful of like, why am I doing this? Why am I watching what I'm watching? How much is it helping? Again, you can just kind of run it through that filter. Is this helping me? Is it hurting me? Maybe in the short term it's helping. Is it helping in the long term? And when I say helping or hurting, again, this is for you to figure out, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve on the grand scale of things, on the short term, what are you trying to achieve? And is this helping you in your goal? So in a short term, you had a hard day. It could be, I'm trying to just kind of like forget about my day and just have some relaxation. Okay. But when you approach that mindfully as opposed to on automatic pilot, the same thing could be with food, right? The same thing could be with other stimulants or thingies that you use. Like the only question is, are you mindful of it? And is it helping you or hurting you? And is it going to help you when you need that support to get through a hard time? And that is for you to figure out and to just be mindful of. That's it. Mindful, self-aware, and then make decisions. And it could be that like right now, I know it's not the best for me, but this is what I feel I need, or it's too stressful to like work on getting over that, whatever it is. But maybe in the long term, you know that would be something you would like to change. And even that awareness that this is something you would like to figure out for down the road is still valuable. How can you support yourself with your strengths right now? How can you support yourself with your environment right now? With the things you listen to, with the things you consume, with the things you surround yourself with? Speaking of which, how are your relationships? Okay? I mean, it might be a little weird to think of relationships as structures, but like the structures in our life, the things that we have, the scaffolding that holds us up when we are falling down. How are your relationships? Are they supporting you? Okay? Are they supporting you? And so the way strengths, tie in there is, are you able to be using your strengths in those relationships? Are you at your best in those relationships? And this is, veering into other conversations, but like the Gottmans talk about fondness and appreciation, at least in an intimate relationship. And it would be true also for friendships. Like, are you fond of your friends? Do you feel like they like you? Is there fondness there? Do they appreciate you? Do they judge you? Are they critical of you? Right? How much of it is criticism and judgment versus acceptance, fondness, appreciation, just like being around them? Okay? So that can be a painful process and that can be a painful exercise. But again, the truth, what is it? The truth will set you free. It doesn't mean that it's like, you start here and you end up like, woohoo, all's good. Rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. And sometimes there's a lot of weeds to get through. And that is okay because you are wonderfully made, right? You are wonderfully made. And once we embrace that we are wonderfully made and understand what the heck does that even mean? And how do I know that? And understand what is true and what is maybe some gunk. What is true and maybe what are just layers of schmutz. That's, schmutz is like a Yiddish word for like, not garbage, but like mud or like dirt or like, if it's just experience, what is true is in your core. Who you are is not a mistake. You being here is no mistake. What are you going to do with it? Okay. And how are you going to support yourself while you figure that out? Or if you've already figured it out, as you go forward. So this is, again, where the structures help. So friendships, relationships, work environment, school environment, how are those working out for you? And if you can't change them or leave them, how can you change yourself? And that's maybe where reframing comes in. And I don't mean change yourself like, not be authentic or not be true to you, but the question is reframe. Can you reframe something? Do you need to have like, a kind of hard moment of understanding what you thought maybe isn't? And then how are you going to support yourself in that? Okay? I know that was a little ambiguous, but if this lands for you, just think about it. If you're having a difficult situation or a challenge in work or in school, how can you arm yourself with your strengths? Okay? A lot of us have to call on bravery in ways we didn't have to call on bravery before. Okay? Perspective. Okay? So just think about it. And that may be, I'm seeking new relationships or different relationships or additional relationships. I'm reevaluating and I am going to use my critical thinking skills to better understand a situation or an opportunity. Right? So these are all strengths that you get to call into. All right? So that's within the environment. And being supported in the environments that you're working in or studying in is really, really important. Really important. In addition to in the home. Okay. And then, yeah. So I think I hit everything. I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh, a big one. Like, do you have anything memorized? So some things over time you just memorize, right? Song lyrics are one. And quotes, depending, on your experience from the Bible or from other sources or other texts, can also be really, really helpful. So I might not pronounce his name right, but there's a poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, okay, that I was introduced to by a friend way back 25 years ago, and it was this one line about living the questions, right, as if they were books. And I don't have the whole quote. It's a very famous quote. It is a quote that I literally put on paper. I even have it somewhere here, and I had it on my wall, and I read it every day, multiple times a day. But the line that I then programmed into my phone, and back, in the late 90s, the phones were a little bit different, but it said, live the questions, live the questions, live the questions. And I was someone who wanted answers like yesterday and wanted certainty and control. And that is out the window. So the sooner we understand that we don't know what's coming, we can only do what we can do. And the question is, do we have the tools, the wherewithal, the strengths to deal with whatever life is going to throw our way? Right? And hopefully make as good choices as we can in the process. So that for me is an example of, I obviously didn't memorize the entire quote, but that live the questions is drilled in my brain. So what else is drilled in your brain? And is it helpful or not? Okay. And again, books are wonderful. So think about the books that you are familiar with, and think about books you may have heard of, and what books that will help you. And there's a lot in, one of the best-selling books of all time, and books that have stemmed from that or built around that. And you know where I'm going with that, and that is Torah, aka the Bible. There's a reason some things have lasted for so long. And if that's something that you've never read, I'm not saying go read the Bible. But if you've never read anything related to religion, because religion has gotten, and I don't even want to say religion, because religion is complicated, but there's truth as we understand it, as we've experienced it. There are things that resonate, and then there are ways that they get interpreted. So all I'm saying is, if we're seeking and valuing truth, if we're seeking and valuing goodness, if we're seeking and valuing light and love and all that good stuff and strength, can you be open to sources you may not have been open to before? That's something that I personally have come to from my own tradition, in a way that I never saw in any synagogue, or in a way that it's just different. And it's kind of like stumbling along, but finding a really deep well for me personally, just for me personally, that I draw a lot of nonstop inspiration and support, and chizuk is the Hebrew word for strength from. So, and the question is, how do you make it yours? How do you make it yours? So whatever that is going to be for you, right? Whatever that's going to be for you. So strengths matter, and you matter. And I hope that this has been a helpful 30 ways to better days, stronger days, happy days. And I'm going to wrap it up here. Would love to hear your feedback. And that's it. So be strong. I will adapt, what Spock says, live long and prosper. I would say live strong and prosper. I don't mean prosper financially, just prosper in your life. Have a good life. Let's all try to have good lives and make life good and make good decisions. And that's it. All right. Thanks again, guys. This has been 30 Ways to Happy Days. And may we have happy days soon, on all levels. And may we get through our days with more grace and ease. And that's it. I'll see you later. Bye.